queer point of view, and I have something very exciting today. We actually have something queer to talk about. So, a couple weeks ago, I went to go see Vivek, Shraya, and the Queer Songbook Orchestra at the theater, and it was so good. I just have to talk about it just for a second. So, for those who don't know, Vivek is a trans woman performer who has written so many books, has written songs, done theater, all of this, and they have done so much in Canada across the thing. I have a copy of this is what one of their books was, I'm Afraid of Men. She told us a lot about her stories and her songs while we were at the performance, and we heard a lot of stories that were all from a queer perspective. So the actual show, what this was that it took place on International Women's Day, and was also part of the Pride Week that was going on in the community. So it has like a lot to like unpack and talk about, which I am really excited about, because we have the gay, it's so good. So how the whole show started was a professor, Dr. Robin Bourgeot, came up on stage and did a land acknowledgement, but this was a very special land acknowledgement. So I personally believe that like land acknowledgements are really important, and it's good that everyone like tries to do them. Like at least more people are trying to do them. But she brought up something really important that I hadn't actually realized until she said something, was that a lot of the speeches that she was hearing, the land acknowledgements in a lot of places, were very rote. They were just like, okay, we have to say this at the beginning of a performance. They weren't actually talking about it as an acknowledgement. They were just like, this is something we just have to say. So what she talked about was how, like, yes, we are on the lands of the indigenous people that used to be the caretakers of this land, and we are here on colonial land. She said all of that, but she talked about queer normativity returning to the land, which was like so nice to hear. It was so nice because like when we talk about indigenous like groups and stuff, like a lot of stuff that's actually like not as talked about, or at least isn't recognized, was the queer community and the queer aspects that were part of that, all of those cultures originally, like people who were gender queer, people who were like all of that. It's because it was all about the value of creation, in Robin's words, and having that and welcoming that back into the land was like, it was like welcoming the whole audience, the whole queer community back in, saying like, it's okay. This like queer doesn't have to be odd anymore. Queer was perfectly fine. It was talking back to the colonialism that has happened in this land, to the heteropatriarchy, all of that. It was talking back to that in such a, not even a subtle way, but just talking back to it in a way that spoke to so many people, which was so important to hear in that moment, because I've talked about it before, how so many queer people feel like as if they have to be separate from it. But what we want, what at least I hope to strive for in the queer community, is having it not exactly separate, but at least recognizing that it can be easily part of it. It's not something that's out there and odd. It's in there. It exists. It doesn't need to be completely separated on that binary. Just people existing, and people like being precious with their lives, and feeling value in that. So that was just the land acknowledgement. That's how the show opened, and it set the tone for the whole show really well. Because then Vivek comes on stage, and she has her background singers, and they start singing from parts of her album, A Part-Time Woman. And that went through so many stories, like from her personal experience, from others, like when she was transitioning, when she, like stories about people in her lives and their negative and positive effects as well. And it was just very multi-layered, which was something that was important, because when we talk about a queer perspective, there are so many perspectives and so many layers and stories to look at and think about. And at the thing, since they were talking about her book, I'm Afraid of Men, we talked a lot about men and like the role in her life, at least Vivek, because Vivek was speaking from a personal experience, which was perfectly fine. And she just talked about like, oh, like men, like saying things like men have taught me fear, acknowledging male privilege and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, it's so very all interconnected, and it's, people can't always step away from these kinds of things, because Vivek's story, while it had like so many important aspects of it and so many things to think about, like what is it to be a man, what is it to be a woman, and are we seeing it through a heteronormative perspective, or are we seeing it through a queer perspective? Because Vivek is a woman. Vivek is a beautiful, very talented woman. She has done so much work, which is amazing. Go check out her website at Vivek. I can put a link into the description below. It's so amazing what she's done, because it was being in a space, being in a theater space, where all of that conversation can happen. Because usually when I look at other plays, I'm just like, oh, I can see how this like personally pertains to me and my experience. But when you're sitting there and you're hearing an actual queer person on stage talking about their experience to other queer people in the audience, to me, to others, and hearing other stories as well, because there was the Queer Songbook Orchestra there, and what they did was that they would take stories from all over Canada, from people of a queer background, take their stories and songs that were related to their stories, and they'd play those songs, and that ties it into their queer experience, because it doesn't have to be like I said before, it doesn't have to be separate. These songs meant something to these queer people, so for them that makes it queer, and that they take ownership of that. They're just like, yes, this is in a world where a lot of things aren't being given to me as a queer person, this song, this moment can be mine. And that is beautiful. All I can say is that it's very beautiful. And when I was sitting there and I was listening to a lot of things, I did actually kind of choke up at a couple moments hearing all these stories, because I had realized I don't usually give myself the liberty to actually seek out as many queer spaces as I can, or queer events like the Vivek concert, like a drag show that was happening a couple weeks later. I usually don't give myself that opportunity, because I am always like, oh, what if I'm too busy, and I need to suck up, because like I need to suck it up, because if I can make time to find the queer perspective in every single show I go to, I'm always going to have a queer perspective, and I'm always going to be a part of this community, be a part of this world, and I take value in my work, and I want to share that work. So by seeing this play, this concert, by seeing this concert, by listening to this music that covers an experience that, while it might not be my own, can still speak to people in that same situation, or of the queer community who just need to know that these conversations are going on, that's important. And I have here a quote about that Vivek had during the concert, and it was that I am not competition. It was like just this notion of like, I'm not a competition, because I could make a joke that it's like, when you're in the queer community, you're always seeing who can be the most queer. Like, I could say that, but it's not about that. For Vivek, it was about her relationship with other women in the world, and some of them being cis women and that, and like not being in competition with that. But in general, life shouldn't be the competition we see it as. Yes, you can say scientifically life is competition, like whatever makes it, but socially it doesn't have to be a competition. You have these queer concerts going on at the same time that there's not a queer concert going on. I went to see Libre and I went to see Vivek. Both of them were excellent concerts, which I could make a dialogue about, being from a queer perspective or not. Which is seriously, like, you don't have, like, I wish that some people in some plays wouldn't think that, oh, because this one queer experience exists, that means we have to make another thing. No, there's tons of straight plays around. There's also tons of queer plays. So let's, as had Robin said, let's bring the queer back into the normativity. Let's bring it together so that it can exist codependently, because they can. They have. So let's strive for that. Like, that is something that I took from this experience, and this is the perspective I hope that can be shared with people, because if this can exist, if we have Vivek on stage doing what she loves, if we have the people from the orchestra playing the instruments that they want to, and like having fun and listening to these stories and sharing these stories with us, so that we can learn that we're not alone. Like, music is a form of self-expression, no matter your gender, your race, your sexuality, or anything. Music speaks to people. So let's also do that with theater. Let's make theater that speaks to people, that can do anything, because that's what theater can do. Anything. That's what I believe. And sure, I will use my queer perspective in it as much as I can, because that's what I have. So I'm really happy that I went to see this show. Please check out Vivek Shraya and look at Dr. Robin Bourgeois' work, because it is so great. I'm so happy we finally have a queer perspective on something that's queer. So thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.